We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. Episode 382 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT. I have a returning guest with a gift who is here to spectate to get some podcast tips. Shawn's here to visit just to kind of do like an oversee and kind of get some learning because he's getting ready to. So ironically, he was on my show 2 episodes ago. And in that same week, he's looking to start his podcast. Interestingly enough, he had the same microphone that I'm using. He was able to bring in the filter for that. And in front of me, I have a gentleman who has an endless amount of talent. I'm not going to do much accolades on his presentation. I'm going to let him introduce himself. And then it's going to be a fun conversation because we ironically ran into each other. And I'll share that story after he gives his introduction. So if you want to introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you do.
Yep. My name is Shawn Robinson. I am an IT technologist, a graphic designer, traditional artist. I do some pencil work, illustration, normally comic book stuff. I probably should have went to art school. If I had, I probably would be a trillionaire right now.
Right.
Star Wars fan,
Okay.
MCU fan. A bit of a conspiracy theorist,
Okay.
Armchair philosopher, endless stuff.
Nice.
If I like it, I'll find out about it and learn up on it. So that's where I'm at. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You already know. So, I'm gonna give grace on that Man City part, but it's cool. I'm a Chelsea guy. Sorry.
All right.
Now Chelsea's been struggling for a while, so it is what it is. But all of the information as far as being a tech guy, like that's how you and I connected. Like,
right.
We got into like some messaging conversations on just different things. And once you saw where I was working, what I was learning, we recently ran into each other. I was sitting in my like on Taylor Island at Starbucks, and he happened to see me, and I was like, all right, let's sit here and chop it up. And we talked for like a good 30 minutes about a lot of stuff. So in the process, the part of why I'm open to having you on the show, which I'll get into in a bit, is one of the things you brought up about businesses is making other businesses aware, not just people who do designing, but people who are asking for designs to understand, like, it's not just, okay, make a website and then throw me into a wildfire and say, I'm just supposed to know what you need. And that's usually what most people who don't understand designing or understand businesses think about. So that's the main part that I'm gonna get into. But we're gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a very wide variety of information. This is as I mentioned before, Nishan's been on the show. He knows and he's listened to a lot of the shows. I'm not a person who I've done podcasting for so long. I used to make it so like, well, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk, and now I'm like, nah, let's just have a sit back. Like, it's almost, matter of fact, this is the best way to describe it. It would be like us having a conversation. We were at Starbucks, but the microphone accidentally fell in the middle.
Right.
So that's the main gist. I gave you homework, but it wasn't homework because it was a blind side for him because we did like I'm the bad guy because I always do this. I always share pre-pod information if it's fun. Because a lot of times I know with me, I'm very unorthodox because I don't come in. I'll give this story. It wasn't at this library, but another library. I did a recording, and one of my guests came on. Before we did the podcast, she came in and she said, "All right, before we even talked about doing like the actual podcast in person, she said, I need to know all the questions, all the breakdowns." And I was like, I'm not ready for this. But I got something together, was able to get the questions to her. She had a PR person look at it. And when she came in, and I'm not putting her on blast because I love her to death. Like she gave some great information about traveling and it was solid content. She came in with a whole notebook ready to go. So I was like, all right, Brian, this is now your new way to learn to compress it and make it more simple and not as make it more unorthodox, but also make it fun. So the icebreaker question, you can thank, and you can thank my friend, but you can blame my friend Lonnie for this because he's laughing. So my friend's shaking his head. I'm to Shawn about this because he came on a podcast one time and he was like, we did a podcast. After the podcast ended, he was like, you should hit this question with people whenever they come on. Just ask them what's your five non-skippables. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. So most of the people I know are music heads that I get on the show. So that's where that comes into play. So what are your 5 in no particular order, non-skippable albums? They can be a single album, they can be a double album. We just avoiding the obvious. Like I wouldn't say, just to put it out there, I wouldn't say, what is it? Stevie Wonder, The Close of a Century is unfair. You can't put a 4 disc in there and say, oh yeah, let it run.
Yeah, right. So I have a lot more than 5.
Okay.
But I'm gonna boil it down to the 5 that I'm most likely to draw from.
All right, I'll be petty and give you 5. And since I kind of run a sports podcast, I'll give you a 6-man.
Okay. Number 1, first and foremost, Big Punisher, Capital Punishment.
Ooh. Okay.
You know what I mean? I bought that. I was about to say record, showing my age. I bought that CD.
Our age, we're all
still showing my age. I bought that CD in October. I think it came out with 96 or something like that.
Yeah.
I played that thing straight through for like 6 months.
Really?
Like I'm talking about I ain't had no CD changer.
Yeah.
I never took that shit out the deck.
Right.
All right. Number 2, Nas Illmatic.
Ooh. Okay.
That joint belongs. It is in a museum. It's actually Nas Illmatic is actually in the Library of Congress.
Now that I didn't, and
Yep.
that is okay. That is
Yep. I watched the whole presentation and everything. It
Wow.
was like, wow, they put that joint in the Library of Congress.
that's
that joint is like next to the Beatles, Anthology, and
that's interesting.
But it's Mozart, sheet music and stuff like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Number 3, Run DMC, Raising Hell.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Like it.
One of my favorite songs of all time, Walk This Way, is on there.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a rock and roll guy. I love guitar.
Yeah.
So, and one of my albums is a rock album.
Okay.
Number 4, Bob Marley Legends. You know what I mean? I'm gonna play that when I leave. I'm gonna blast that when I leave out of here today.
Yeah, that's ooh.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, Jimi Hendrix Greatest Hits. Voodoo Child, Watchtower, the national anthem at Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm a guitar guy. I love electric guitar. So, got to have some Jimmy. So I can zone out on that joint. I can sit on the couch and listen to that. You know what I mean? You said I get a 6-man, right?
Yeah. Do you? Will it be beneficial? Do you need a 6-man and I give you a coach? I'll give you two.
I could do a 6-man and a coach.
Okay, all right. Because I'm having fun with this part alone.
Coming off the bench to give me that spark of offense, Beastie Boys' License to Ill.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that goes hand in hand with Raising Hell.
Gotcha.
You know, because they had a little partnership going at the time. And then my coach, really the team owner.
Okay.
GM, coach, team owner. Michael Jackson, Thriller. You know what I mean? You got to have that. You know what I'm saying? You got to have 2 copies of that. You got to have the one you play and the one that you just hang up on the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where the plastic's still on it and all that good stuff.
In the package, yeah.
And I'm gonna throw in a free agent.
Okay.
Even though I don't know every song on this album,
Mm-hmm.
it is probably the greatest R&B album of all time.
Okay.
Michael Jackson, Off the Wall.
All right. I'm with it.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a little bit before I got into music because I think that's 79.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you ask any music aficionado, they're going to mention Off the Wall. Because it was groundbreaking in a lot of the arrangements that it had.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got guys like Questlove, Pete Rock, Primo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all took notes from Off the Wall.
Right.
You know, how the bass come in, you know, the piano. I mean, it speaks for itself. So that's my core team right there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's how I get down.
Shawn, you taking notes? We got to add him to the sports group. The music group.
That is tough.
We got to add him to the music group. I just thought about it because give unique context. Shawn, like I mentioned before, off mic, we did a sports group. We do a sports group together. We do a music group together. We just did the tech group.
Okay.
And so when you're naming all these albums, I'm like, hold on, he might have to. Let me throw him in this mix of these.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I attribute my music taste to,
mm-hmm.
and I mean, I'm not unique in any way.
Right.
You know, it's millions of people who like the same stuff I like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably hundreds of millions. But I came up in a time where you had disco, R&B, soft rock, and hip hop was just a baby. Right. All that was on one radio channel.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't 6, 7 different channels. It was 2 on FM and a whole bunch on AM. You know what I mean? So all that was, you know, you would get Curtis Blow for the first song, then you might get Boy George and the Culture Club the next song.
Right, true.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Then you might get, you know, some Luther Vandross. Then you might get daggone White Snake, mm-hmm. you know, next. You know what I mean? That's how the radio rotation went when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. So that's how, you know, and then my uncles played guitar in the band. So I love electric guitar, you know.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
And you see, that covered a solid unpack of, because I'm sitting there with these like, hold on, I'm supposed to be writing these down, but I got to edit, so I'm going to listen to it. Because I definitely go back. I had a lot, because all of those albums are like solid albums, especially with like the story, and the Illmatic one, that was like literally the more you know part for me. So, but like I said, I like doing that because it eases, kind of makes like a good conversation piece, and just kind of, that we can shoot shit about life and talk about tech, talk about business. So, you said you are let me make sure I'm giving this right. You're a tech guy as far as like you've been in the tech industry for a good while, right?
About 11 years now.
Okay.
Yep.
My lazy question, and this, so I'm gonna do some little small. I'll do some knuckleballs, some light throws, and then I'm gonna throw some heavy hits. But a good light one to throw in is like, how did you get started in tech, and what is your passion for tech?
So I've always been a tinkerer.
Okay.
Like I always like to take stuff apart and see how it works.
Raise his hand.
You know, I don't probably took my uncle electric shaver apart 100 times.
Right.
Sometimes it worked good, sometimes it don't.
Right.
You know, I remember many Saturdays like, why this thing ain't working right? And I'm like, I'm trying to hide a screwdriver. So I've always been a person that wanted to know how something works.
Right.
I'm actually a born artist. I could draw before I could write.
Okay.
So that's my first, that's my God-given talent. That's what God gave me to get by.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Technology I picked up on just because, like I said, I'm a Star Wars guy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the laser guns, you look at the lightsabers, the spaceships, and you think, how did that work?
Yeah.
So when I see an electric shaver, or I see a carburetor in the backyard, or I see something that looks like a space age piece of machinery, I want to take it apart and see what's inside of it.
Right.
That translates to technology. How I got into technology was because even though I wasn't doing computer work,
mm-hmm.
I kind of knew the lingo. I kind of knew I could hold my own in a room full of guys that build computers.
Yeah.
I know what vacuum tubes were. I knew what transistors were and what they do. I knew what CPUs do. Right. I knew what memory did. I just had never touched the stuff.
Yeah.
So skip ahead 30 years, I was talking to a guy who did telecom in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I was talking, and we was talking about, coils and all that stuff that makes sound travel and stuff. He said, man, you should go into IT.
Right.
I said, me? He was like, yeah, I think you'll be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So after 6 months of pondering, do I want to go to school for 2 years? I said, you know what? Screw it. I ain't doing nothing else. Let me go ahead and learn something new.
Right.
Went to school, went to ITT.
Okay.
Got my degree, in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
My first real job was doing upgrading Windows XP to Windows 7 at Capital One.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally scripted. It was dummy proof.
Yeah, you pretty much pop a flash drive.
But we was the dummies that broke it a few times. Got yelled at a lot.
Yeah.
For pressing the wrong buttons, fat fingering.
Mm.
But it was a great experience. I met some good people. From there, I went to work for a company called Helix.
Okay.
Did a lot of help desk stuff. Learned some customer service skills, some soft skills, so to speak. How to talk to people, how to just to set up what I'm about to say next. One of the hardest things to do in IT is to translate a customer request or what a customer is seeing on their side up to engineering speak.
So it'd be reverse layman's if I'm thinking right.
Right.
Okay.
To be that go-between to where the customer says, I can't get on the internet.
Right.
So now you tell the engineer, the customer said they can't get on the internet.
Right.
That means a whole bunch of shit. That means, is the router down? Is the switch down? Is their network card not working?
Mm-hmm.
Is the computer turned on? That means a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
So me in my green days as a help desk tech, I would just put on the ticket, internet down. Right?
Right.
So then the network engineer would come back to me and say, so what, the whole building is down?
Yeah.
Like, no, this one user said they can't get on the internet. Well, you need to go back and find out some more information.
Mm-hmm.
So, you learn those things. I think that anybody that does IT needs to do at least 3 or 4 years of help desk. Because you're going to learn that anybody can do the technical part.
Yep.
Anybody can turn bolts. Anybody can fill in a checkbox.
Yeah.
But when it comes to critical thinking, when it comes to learning how to communicate with clients, customers, management, stakeholders, those things are critical skills in the IT world.
Right.
You have guys that can build a whole space shuttle, but they can't talk to clients.
Nope.
You know,
Right.
and customers. And customers will say, I don't want to deal with that guy no more. You know, so that's a much more valued skill than being able to fix something.
1000%. Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Okay.
It's been easy, it's been difficult, it's been great, and it's been horrible.
Yeah. No.
But at the end of the day, I mean,
yeah,
it's served me very well. As far as, you know, living the kind of life I want to live. So
right.
Anybody who's listening to this and you're trying to decide what to get into, IT.
There's your pass the message for the day. We're gonna close. No, that's valid. That's valid. So I'm gonna spin the block a little bit with that, because I literally had a similar conversation with someone a couple of months ago, invited me on the show. And at the time, I was in help desk. I had literally done help desk for a little over a year, where I'm currently working. And it's so eye-opening, because, like when you said the part about doing at least 3 years, doing any amount of time to get that service desk foundation gives you a good idea of the company or of the critical thinking. Because, like you said, when you're talking to people on the phone, they just gonna tell you what they know.
Right. Exactly.
They only gonna look at you and say, all right, let me be clear, my company is valued and loved, so I'm not coming for my folks at all, because it's good for me now, because working with a lot of them on the other side, when I'm not at help desk, they can look at me and be like, oh, so you can handle this? I'm like, yeah, this is another level of critical thinking, because now I'm just writing code. Right. Writing code compared to talking to someone that's saying, I can't get into my email, but they don't tell you specifically whether it's I can't get into, like, Outlook's not opening, or the famous phrase Outlook is down. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm looking at mine right now. It's well loaded fine.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about it, and I was just talking to a couple of my coworkers a few days ago about it, is you definitely have to develop a line of questioning.
Yeah.
So that you can get to the meat of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I said, going back to the internet, you know, the internet is down thing. You know, and most customers, they're gonna call you in a panic.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be the world is on fire sort of deal. You know, a woman will call you. I had a situation. A woman called me and said, "Hey, the internet is down and blah 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 and da 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 da," and I can't. Da, da, da. I was like, "Hold up. Why do you say the internet is down?"
Right.
I can't get to the application. Okay, so it's the application that's down.
Right.
Well, can you get to Facebook? Yeah, I'm on Facebook now. So the internet is not down. You can't get to the application.
Right.
Why can't you get to the application? Yeah. Because and when I click on the shortcut, okay, you're clicking on the shortcut,
and the shortcut's not reacting. Yeah.
Can you put the URL into the space bar, to
the address bar on there?
In the address bar,
yeah.
Does it come up? Yeah. Did you fix it? No, I didn't fix it. The shortcut is broken somehow or another. You know, maybe the application updated, broke the shortcut. You know, maybe your computer updated, broke the shortcut. Or just create yourself another shortcut.
Or my personal favorite is people put a shortcut that's what they used at that time, and that shortcut ain't even remotely close to like the actual page itself. And
right, so exactly. Take them back to the login page.
Yeah.
Why did it log in? Because you didn't put your credentials in.
Right.
You know. I mean, it's just like I said. You have to develop a line of questioning, and you have to know how. I'm a staunch believer of, in order to properly troubleshoot a system or a process, you have to know it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to know it. You can't just be like, well, is this turned on? Or because, you know, you have guys, you have people who design systems who want to be ninjas, and they want to put scripting. They want to put a custom scripting in the background.
Right.
Now, you as a help desk tech, you might not know that. You know, I don't know any engineers or coders or anybody that's gonna go to a help desk tech and say, "Hey, I did this." So, you know what I mean? They don't give a damn about you.
No,
you know,
no,
they
no.
don't even talk to you when they come in. You know, come into work.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't mean to laugh because I'm
I
thinking
mean,
about
it's true.
No,
It's true.
it's happened to me where I'm like, it'll be people I'll walk in the building the same time as them. They won't say a word to me, but then like 20 minutes later, yeah, I need my password reset.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a situation where I was troubleshooting a system as a help desk tech, level 1 help desk,
Right.
and one of the troubleshooting steps was to kill one of the connections, right? If it failed over to the next connection, I mean, I forget what, I mean, this was 2016, but
Yeah.
I killed the connection. 3 minutes later, we get a phone call. Who killed the connection? Who did this? Who did that? Blah, 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 blah. I said, I did. I'm
Right.
troubleshooting.
Yeah.
Dude comes storming in. Man, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and you shouldn't be. And next time you check with me, I said, "This is what you sent us to do."
Standards are
Right. This is the steps that you created for us.
Right.
You should have told help desk, "Hey, I'm working on this." Blah blah blah. Right. But see, a lot of people they don't know where the holes are until they step into them.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
So,
yeah, facts.
So one of the biggest things about IT is communication. You have to communicate up and down from help desk to level 1 or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 to the developers.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has to know what's happening. You know what I mean? And I know it's hard, you know, because you may have a company with 500 people.
Right.
You may have a help desk with 50 people on the help desk. You know, so it's tough. There's actually a term for that, and I can't remember it, but I was just reading about it, where the developers will give tier 3 troubleshooting, will give them information about this is how this works. Then tier 3 will trickle down and down and down and so forth to help desk. You know, now help desk might know the whole thing inside and out, but are not authorized to go past this point.
Right.
You know, like us, we was like, if you get to this point, or if you get to an hour of troubleshooting, escalate.
Right.
Because I might know that it's a developing issue. And I might can go into, you know, well, one, I don't have access to the code. You know what I mean? But I might know, well, this memory leak is coming from this. But I'm not authorized to go into that and fix it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's pretty much, you know, I mean, IT is a jungle.
It's literally its own world.
It's a jungle, man. And there's even though there are standardization frameworks like ITIL, COBIT, things like that, a lot of places just don't follow because there's a lot of cowboys out there that's just going to do what they do to get the job done.
Right.
You know, so.
Speaking of cowboys, not indirectly, but give me your thoughts on if you've experienced this, and this is like a one-off, but it'll make sense why I'm asking. If you know anyone or how have you experienced or ran into anyone as far as like gatekeeping with tech?
So
I know that's a loaded thought.
No, it's actually a very what's the word I'm looking for here? It's actually a good question because there are a lot of gatekeepers who, one, don't want you to do what they do,
right,
or they want you to do it their way, even though their way is either antiquated or just flat out wrong.
Right.
You got guys who made their bones on older systems, right? And a lot of those older systems have deprecated features.
Yeah.
But the people who are telling you do it this way, and that way, it has an affinity to that older system.
Right.
You know, but they spent 10 years on that system, so they know it inside and out. So when the new system come out and you know, well, you can't do that on this. they're gonna tell you, well, do this. Can't do that. Well, there's something similar to that. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of guys or gatekeepers who they're not gonna say, well, maybe I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
When you case in point, I was in a situation where Microsoft Exchange server, right? Email.
Mm-hmm.
From 2003 to 2010, 2003, 2007, 2010, you had client access server, edge server, mailbox, so on and so forth, right? You had like 5 different roles, right? Mm-hmm. 2013 comes out, Microsoft says there is no more client access server role, there is no more mailbox role, there is no whatever. We're going to condense it all the way down to mailbox server, right? All that is mailbox server, right? Mm-hmm. So my team lead at the time was an Exchange guy. He was like, yeah, well, you need to get on the cash server and blah, 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 blah. I said, there is no more cash server. It's only mailbox server.
Right.
You know, all that is condensed down into one server. And he was like, I don't believe that. How they going to take 7 roles and make it into one, da-da-da, and da-da-da. I said, I just read it 30 minutes ago.
Let me call Bill Gates. Let me get back with you and let you know.
You know, and that goes into I forget the principle, but you know, they say that every 18 months computer systems get smaller and more streamlined with technology.
I can see that.
Right? So why wouldn't Microsoft take 7 different roles, condense them down into one role, and it does everything you needed to do? Right. But you know, that guy, as a career email guy, he just couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that it was only one role. Actually, 2 roles. It's a mailbox server and edge server.
Yeah.
But it's only 2 roles where it used to be 7 or 8 different roles.
Yeah.
And I actually had to go and find the article from Microsoft and send it to him.
That he could have failed.
And he still didn't admit that he was wrong.
But he could have, yeah.
Well, I don't believe that. Why would they do that? And blah, 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 blah. Instead of saying, well, let me see if that's true, or let me see.
Let me take a look into it.
Right. It was just a whole lot of, no, you wrong because you don't know as much as I know type of deal.
Right.
You know. But you're gonna run into gatekeepers who have their own language, their own way of doing things, mm-hmm. and they feel like you should conform to what they know. You know. They have a culture built up that they just can't get away from.
Right.
You know, like where I work at now, you know, the culture is do everything through PowerShell. And it's like, well, not everybody's a PowerShell person.
At all.
You know, PowerShell is in its own right a highly specialized skill. Yeah. You know, you got some guys, all they do is PowerShell.
Yeah.
You know, now PowerShell is, as the name suggests, very powerful.
Very powerful.
You can run a whole environment with PowerShell.
You can batch a good amount of stuff using PowerShell.
Right.
I've learned that, like when I first started with Markel, a lot of folks I was like, you do what? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, PowerShell is really, you're digging into the actual libraries of Microsoft and you're running commands from that library.
Right.
You know, on a operating system level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But not everybody's a PowerShell person.
PowerShell savvy, yeah.
You know, so instead of saying we need a tool that does this, the culture is, well, write a PowerShell script to do that. Like, okay, well, who's gonna write the script? Who's gonna write it? Who's gonna test it? What system are we gonna test it on?
Mm.
How are we gonna determine whether the test is successful or not?
Right.
You know, so you have like I said, you have the gatekeeper who they just not gonna deviate from that, no matter how old or antiquated or obsolete the process gets.
All right. Yeah. Valid. No, I throw that question in there only because it's interesting when you're in different environments or different cultures with tech, that there are those who are like, hey, it's a plate, let's all eat. and then some that'll see, oh, it's a plate. Let me get everything I need off of it, and run away. And it's like we all can eat off of this plate, y'all. Like I don't know if you understand. Like to give, I think I may have given this backstory, but I may not have. So with where I'm at now, when I first came in the service desk, like most of the folks, like when everybody came in, a lot of them were like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like everybody kind of was trying to see what their role was or where their lane was. I ain't gonna lie to you. My first 2 or 3 weeks there, coding. That's what I was like. I'm doing coding. Some avenue or some late I'm coding. I'm going to do coding. Right. And I had that effort of like my offline time was gonna be. You can look at my computer now. VS. I lived in VS. I lived in VS Code. I lived in GitHub. I was literally like, all right, I'm gonna make this thing work. And with time it happened. But it's like when you see other folks around, some folks are like they're trying to figure out what they're doing. And like with me, I was that person who if a cert came up and it was like, hey, it's a free cert. Look, I'm gonna send you the information. If you fill it out and set it up, that's on you. But I can't put the certification in front of you and say take it. Right. Like most folks, and it's it's almost like it's a double-edged sword because it's like you have those who are gatekeepers that don't give information, and then you have those you give them the information and they just sit on it. And you're like, what are we doing? How does this work?
Right. And trust plays a big part of it.
True. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can your boss trust you to go into a system and not muck it up worse than what it already is?
Right.
Can he trust you to say, hey, look, I need this to be up and running in 3 months?
Right.
Sometimes, most times, it does not go that smoothly because it's so many different variables in an environment.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, you just don't know who did what before you.
You got to play cleanup.
Case in point, my first 2 weeks at my job, I had to do a change control to redirect a URL to a different site. Right. They had already announced that the new page was going to be ready at this time on this day. I couldn't get it done, right?
Yeah.
So the owner of the change, I called her up and said, I can't get this to work. She said, well, don't worry about it. We'll look at it tomorrow. Right? This is the owner of the change.
Yeah.
I get to work the next morning. My boss says, how did the change go last night? I said, I couldn't get it to work. I called her up and said, I'm having trouble with this. She said, don't worry about it till this morning. He flies off the handle. Well, they done already announced it. I mean, it was like we was arguing over money. So when he tried to do it, he couldn't get it to work. Right? Called the guy in the office next to him. He couldn't get this shit to work.
Right.
It's something they had to do crazy in IIS server. I'm not an IIS guy. Right? So it's something that they had to do.
Might have been a proxy, maybe.
I don't know what it was. Come to find out, there was some custom coding that some guy did in 1997. And this was 2017.
Right.
It was some custom coding that some guy that hadn't been there in 20 years had did. And they was still, when they had migrated the files over from the old server to the newest server, to the new server, to the new server, to the current server that they're working on with now.
Some didn't. They
bought that file over.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was something that just was not allowing them to point URLs to, it was something that was jacking the redirect up. Gotcha. And it took them like 2 days to find it.
Wow. Huh.
So my boss called me in and said, man, I'm sorry I had to say that, blah, 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 blah. I said, what happened? He was like, some guy from da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, you know what I'm saying? I said, well, that's how I go there, Yeah. But I mean, but it's always a pothole. It's always a hurdle that you just don't see coming.
Right.
People don't document stuff. You got guys that they got to get it done like now. they feel like they ain't got to tell you what they did. Then there's the ones that feel like, well, you ought to know what I did. You ought to be able to look at what's going on and know what happened. Like, how am I supposed to know that you got a file buried 4 folders deep,
Right. Just out of the blue, just
somewhere in a part of the OS that I can't even access?
Yeah.
You know, how am I supposed to realize that?
Just know.
Yeah, you should know how to do that.
Telepathically.
Like me, like certificates, right?
Yeah.
Certificates always kill me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Y'all familiar with how certificates work?
With the SSLs? Or
Yeah.
different one? Yeah, I know a little bit about it. Like, just on the basis of you mainly want to keep the main, like, story without being a long story, someone who we went to school with, we'll talk about offline, came to me and said, hey, I know someone that needs a site worked on, and we talked about it, and they were like, yeah, I got all these SSL emails, and I need to keep everything up to date. And I'm like, they're not up to date, then it's not going to work properly.
Right.
So that's my, like, the main basis on that level. I was like, it was almost like a hot plate because I was ready to start working with it, and I was like, nah, this ain't worth cooking because I already know how this is about to go. But
Right.
SSLs are very important solely from the fact that if they're not up to par with any modifications, that's the main basis that I have on it, at least.
Right. So, not to geek out too much.
No, that's fine. This is tech cast. We freestyling day. We good.
So the way SSLs work is you have so basically I equate SSL certs to like a driver's license.
Okay.
It's an identification. It's how servers and websites identify themselves on the web.
Right.
Right. So you have certificate authorities, which says I have the reputation and the credentials to issue a certificate that says that this server or this website is who they say they are, right? Network Solutions, GoDaddy, what's the other one that everybody uses?
Wix. You talking about like for designing, or you talking about just
web systems in general? Now I know Wix, they do search, but I can't go to Wix and say, hey, I need a search for a web server or an application server.
Because in my head, I'm thinking AWS are probably not.
They actually do have a certificate authority, but it's for AWS systems.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like I can't go to AWS and say, hey, I need a search for MaxChain server.
Yeah.
You know, so I would have to go to like I said, GoDaddy, Network Solutions. I can't think of the third one that everybody uses. Well, anyway, that's your big certificate, right? Okay. You take that certificate and you put it on your certificate server internally, and you turn that off, right? And then you get other certificates from that. Mm-hmm. So basically, you get that certificate, you put it on your application server, so that when you request services from the application server, that server will identify itself with the certificate and says, yes, this is Facebook, or yes, this is Canva, or yes, this is Exchange server.
Or Adobe, yeah.
You know, yeah, right.
Okay.
It's a whole lot that goes into it. You know, you got what they call a thumbprint. You have what they call your SHA encryption level. You have your password. You have, it's just a lot that goes into your DNS names, your SAN names.
Heaven forbid if you got to do 2-factor authentication.
Well, yeah, we're actually looking at that now. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys came to me and was like, man, I don't understand how the certificate works. And I was like, well, you're going to have to let me read up some stuff because that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. 2FA, MFA is a...
But it's a process. It's really a process.
Mm-hmm.
The part that used to kill me is the subject alternative names.
Okay.
Right? Because so you have a cert where you have internal DNS names, or you have external DNS names.
Right.
There's something called split brain DNS, where You have internally for your company, you may have internalcompany.com.
Right.
Like, and all of us might have email, Shawn at internalcompany.com, right? Externally, where people are accessing the website, people are accessing things to pay their bills, things like that. You have externalservices.com,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to have a cert for those two interfaces. Customer facing services.
Yeah, between your UI and you. Okay.
Right. Now, internally, you can have what's called a wildcard cert. Right. You could have calculator at internalcompany.com.
Mm-hmm.
Calculator.internalcompany.com. You could have calendar.internalcompany.com.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anything that we have inside the company, internal, can be prefixed to that DNS name, internalcompany.com. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Externally, you don't want that.
Right.
Because anybody can,
they'll have
attach,
full access
right.
almost to.
So you might have like I said, you want to get to externalservices.com, right? You don't want to put names in front of that because now they can get to anything, you know what I mean? And you want to streamline it down to where you're only getting to that website, right? And you have, part of the security mechanism of the cert is your browser will not bring that website to you unless that cert is valid.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a little bit of cert stuff, and it took me a long time to kind of learn. I mean, it's less complicated than it sounds,
mm-hmm.
but it's just things that you got to take into account. A lot of IT is planning. A lot of it is. You will spend 6 months planning something that's going to take you 10 minutes to implement.
Heaven forbid it's got to get through the right channels, the right walls. The folks got to give approvals.
Yeah, project management and different milestones and stuff like that.
Yeah, sitting in the area that I'm in now. Like I said, initially I'm working around everybody. We all service desk, all cool. We all worked with each other. We were a good vibe. Where I'm at now, it's a good vibe, but it's like literally, it's like behind me is a software engineer. Behind her is our boss. Next to me is a BSA.
Right.
Across from me, literally from where I sit going towards, if you leave out all Scrum Masters, project owners, project managers. When I tell you I sit there and be listening and I start paying attention to some of their lingo, I'm like, you do what? Oh, so you got to, so that's why, so this project came, like it was when, quick story time, and then we'll transition into our business talk because I'm gonna have some fun with that a little bit because we've had some dialogue on how people come to us, and my personal phrase, my roommate her and I used to have this running joke where somebody say, hey, I want a logo, make it pop, and I'm like, all right, this is the wrong person I'm doing a design for. high level trigger. Logos is now we could do 10 podcasts on logos. Right. Oh no, I know that. Yeah, that probably would be a series. But there was a IT director or manager who was coming to present an application that we're working on as designers. We're actively doing forms for this particular application, and I'm making sure I'm using my words, but not saying too much verbally out loud because I never know who may or may not. Because I have someone. It's ironic because I do have someone who. The engineer who sits behind me, she listens to the show, so she'll know about this. But it's by me not putting any specific terms, it's not gonna be a big deal. But the lady was getting ready to start presenting about what we were learning as an application. So we're like, okay, this is gonna be some good information. Not even 10 minutes in, product owner comes in and he's like, I don't see the convenience, I don't see the benefit of them learning this. When I tell you I'm in the office, I almost wanted to have an office space moment, throw everything in the air. I was like, yo, I'm going to take a walk. Because y'all, we need, like, the more information we can gain to understand what we're working with and doing, the better it makes on the designers or the engineers to not have to sit here and start playing what we like to call dev versus QA. Dev versus QA is worse than East Coast, West Coast. It's worse than Pac and Biggie. Literally, because you will literally, and I am a witness to this, and this is probably an early passing message. Get everything fixed the first time, so that way when you send it, they see it, it is approved. Send it off, because I want it on the next update. Because a lot of times I've had stuff that I've worked on, and it will be sent, and they're like, no, it's not right because this passed, but this failed. This passed, this failed. So it all needs to pass in order for it to work. And I'm like, right, it's not going to, because you have no way for us to test based on this application that we were supposed to learn. Yeah. So long story less long, basically it ended up being the product owner and another product owner came to this director's desk, and I'm sitting here trying to listen to them because the whole time I'm messaging my Scrum Master like, yeah, so it's a little tea going on that ain't a normal tea that I'm used to. So I'm just trying to get all this information. And the light of it is, because I never went to the director. I still want to talk to her, because the full circle moment is, before interacting with this director up here, she would call the service desk frequently. She got me a good amount of times. And usually the calls would never end well, but it was like, hey, I fixed what I could. I did my best. But now, because we work alongside each other, she was like, do you like it up? She'll every time she sees me, like, do you like it up? I was like, yeah. This is way much more my lane, but I like it because it's a more, up there, it's a more open dialogue. And it wasn't that it wasn't before, but it's like, you definitely can understand, like, the temperatures of, like, how something, just like you just mentioned, something can be like, hey, work on this and fix it. And it's like, okay, are you being realistic with understanding how many people we have and how many forms you need adjusted? And a lot of times things are told, but nothing gets told, and then all of a sudden you look and it's like, hold on, you mean to tell me we got 20? We was only supposed to do like 20 or 30 forms. Yeah. Oh, time will move on the show and tell you if you low key. But we working through that, and then eventually it's like we turn around and it's almost like 40, 50 forms. And I'm like, how do we get this many forms to work on? But we working through it the best we can. So yeah, I just want to get at it as like a piggyback off of that dialogue. Gotcha. So design, business. How can I lead into this? Because this is one of my fave things, and I'm like I said, we had like a fun convo just off of the raw strength of literally you start as a web designer and you end up as a brand strategist in the process.
Yeah, you get shoehorned into those roles.
Yes. What is one way that you can think of on how to streamline your process with, because I know now you're, and if it's okay with me saying this, I know you're in the process of possibly streamlining away from it and going more into a more stable role with the tech world, which I'm 100% on board with. But in the times that you've worked with folks in designing, whether it was logo or website, how are you able to streamline it to just make it simple of like, look, this is what we're here for. This is how long we can hold hands. And then after that, it's not that the relationship is over, but this is what I can help you with. And I'm not going to be your personal a la carte person. I guess it's the best way
there's a lot of controls that you can use to streamline and to kind of quell customer expectation. Mm-hmm. The first control is an agreement, a written agreement. Right. You know, these are the services that I provide. This is the scope of those services. Right. You know, there can be some wiggle room, you know, but at the same time, you know, I can't be your logistics manager. I can't be your marketing strategist. You know, I can't be these things that you need, but you don't want to pay for those needs. Yeah. Right? At the same time, me as a person who loves to learn stuff and love to help people, I got to pull my own reins back, you know, because it's really hard for me to see somebody that needs something
Mm-hmm.
and need to know how to do something and don't help them.
Right.
Right. So many times I've set the hook in my own mouth to be reeled in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I love to read. I like to read like traditional books.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I'll read, you know, a couple of 100 pages, you know, in a week about something and run into that scenario. Now it's fresh on my mind. It's like, yeah, well, you know, I just read that, da, 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 we can do it this way, da, da, da. And then it's like, I'm digging that hole for myself. You know, well, yeah, that's a good idea. Can you do this and do that? Now I'm like spending 4 or 5 hours a week doing this for you and I ain't getting paid for it.
Right.
Because I've de facto volunteered myself for it because I want to show you that I know it. So you have to pull back your own reins and not to expose yourself too much. You know, you have to just be like, hey, I'm just here to design a website.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the world of big business or corporate business, you know, your marketing team is going to tell you how to build the website because the website is a marketing tool, right? It's a tool to deliver services, products, and information.
Not social media. Oh,
right.
I'm sorry.
So
I've started some trouble with that. My bad.
In the world of big business or corporate business, a marketing team is going to tell you how to build a website.
Right.
But when you're dealing with clients who don't even know really what their service or product does, they just got it, you know?
Yep.
They don't know how to market. They don't know who to market it to.
Heaven forbid if you just got the LLC like 2 weeks ago.
Right. I worked on a site for a gentleman who was a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, who is your services for? Who are your customers?
Right.
His answer was for anybody who wanted. I said, so you're going to train a 85-year-old guy who was just in a car accident and trying to learn how to walk again?
Yeah.
No, I ain't going to do that. You said you're a physical trainer, though.
Right.
You know, are you going to train a 45-year-old white woman who probably never met a black guy before in her life?
Mm-hmm.
But you say it's for everybody. So I'm saying you have to know who your people are.
Right.
When it comes to that sort of thing. And see, a lot of people, they don't do that step. You know, they don't know what to put on their design. You know, they don't know how to, you know, they don't know what scheme to use because they don't, I mean, they're not going to know the scheme,
yeah.
but they should know who they're trying to communicate with.
Yeah.
And they don't take that step. And it's hard for a designer to come in and say, well, who are your customers? You know, or who are you trying to reach? You know, so that's one of the ways to streamline is to kind of remove yourself from a lot of those steps that the person who owns the business should be taking. Now you can say to them, well, hey, I know how, you know, you should do this. Right. You should do it this way, whatever.
Yeah.
Then of course they're gonna say, well, I don't have time for it. You know, can you do it for me? You know, and that's normally when I reply, how do you not
times 4?
Yeah,
plus
I'm like, how do you not have time to run your business? You know?
That's the part. Ugh.
You know? So, and that's normally when the conversation begins to break down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so another control that I like is the fuck you price. The fuck you price is I'm going to charge you $2,500 for this.
Right.
The client normally replies, "Oh man, fuck you." You know what I mean? Fuck that. But you know they're not gonna pay that.
Right.
So you throw it out there, hoping that they will leave you alone. You know, now every now and then they pay it. And now you stuck doing this
now
shit
you like
that you didn't want to do in the first place.
Yeah, now you committed to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So, you know, but those are the three main ways to streamline your involvement. One of the things that I was thinking about this morning in anticipation of that type of question is you have to come up with a operation that, one, is going to help you deliver your best services and your best products to your clients, and two, it's not going to kill you to do it.
Right. Absolutely.
So, a lot of my customers are not up on technology.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know how to,
sign into
virtual meetings. And,
oh God.
They don't know how to use electronic signatures and stuff like that. You got to meet them at TGI Fridays or
Panera, Starbucks.
You got to meet them somewhere and print out the paperwork so they can sign it and all that stuff. And it becomes a hassle because, that 2 hours that you're sitting there doing that, or the hour of travel or whatever, you could have been doing something else at home.
Right. Yeah, trying to, that last part you said, I think that's sticking with me now because I think even with me having done my design work now for 3 years, like it fluctuates because every person that you work with is different. Because some people will come to you and they say, I need this, I have this is what I can do. Where can we start and what do you need from me? And it's like, okay, you just made everything for me easy.
Right.
Why can't I get the same treatment? Because
Right.
other folks will come to you and they just like the convo we had literally was, I want a logo. And you're sitting there like, all right, so now I got to play Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud, and figure out the top answers of like, what color do you want? What style are you looking for? Like, because you don't want to do, because I've seen people, and it's everyone, not everyone does it, but it's a trend that happens sometimes where folks will say, go to this website, find a font, and you're sitting there like, why are you making someone else? Like, those are things that you should be doing as you're the designer. So it's like trying to find that sweet spot between, because that's, for most logos, I've learned that's probably the most tedious part is finding the right font for certain ones, fonts and colors.
Well, when it comes to, let's tackle the color first.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you get to the logo stage,
Mm-hmm.
you should already know what the colors are.
Right.
Because that's part of brand identity.
Right.
Right.
Which some people
totally skip.
Yeah.
Right. Let's start 30,000 foot view and then zero in.
Out. Yeah.
You should start with brand strategy first.
Okay.
Right. Then brand identity.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start marketing. Right. So when a client says, well, pick the colors and I just want to see what you come up with, it's not valid. Can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions and a lot of decisions that need to be made.
Of colors,
that we need to sit down and talk about before I start choosing a color palette.
Heaven forbid you have me put a color palette that's conflicting to your brand.
Right.
Or conflicting
well, see, that's why you sit down with the person and be like, okay, what do you stand for? What do you do? Why do you do it? For whom do you do it? What's your story? Why should I care about your brand?
Yeah.
Why should I, who should care about your brand? See, a lot of people don't get into that kind of strategy,
mm-hmm.
and they don't want to pay you to get into that kind of strategy.
Right.
Because we're talking hours and hours and days of work.
That's R&D in a sense.
Right. I mean, it's the first step of, coming up with an identity.
Right.
But a lot of people that I've dealt with, they don't understand that, mm-hmm. and they can't see how it fits into creating a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I try to show them, this is going to help me design your logo. It's going to help me how to roll out your logo, but they just don't see that as a viable step, right? But I always do my logos in black for the simple fact that, like, take the logo that's on your shirt,
mm-hmm.
right? You may have a rollout plan where we're going to put this on a t-shirt, and you can't afford to do 10 different colors. You can only do the one color.
Right.
You may want to put this on the door, right? Your window, but you want to do it in, white,
They want to do
So
embroidery.
you need to see it all in one color. If it works in black, it's going to work in anything.
Right.
Fonts, again, goes back to strategy. Do we want to appear modern? Do we want to appear vintage, like we've been around for a long time?
Retro, yeah.
Do you want, to use a serif font, a sans serif font?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be doing business cards? Are you going to, print media? Business cards, flyers, newsletters, things like that? Or are you not? Is everything going to be strictly digital?
Right.
You know what I mean? What are you trying to tell your clients? Are you trying to tell them you can trust us? Are you trying to tell them we're fun? We're sophisticated. We're rugged. We're exciting. What are you trying to tell them?
Mm-hmm.
Through your font.
Right.
Case in point, take somebody like Apple. Apple doesn't use serif fonts because serif fonts suggest older, time-honored type of services.
Yeah.
Apple is cutting edge. They're on the cusp of innovation. Everything is always changing. So they go with a sans serif font. They go with that really thin, which was probably designed for them. Strictly for them.
Yeah.
Like iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you see that font and it doesn't say iPhone,
you can tell it's that.
You get like, oh, that's the same shit they use for iPhone. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. You're exactly right.
When you get into colors, red and yellow. Whenever I see red and yellow on anything, I think McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have. That's why I hate red sneakers. I don't know.
No. I'm not taking mine.
I hate red sneakers because it always made me think of McDonald's.
My red. So, and I one thing with me, because it's funny, like when I've done filters on TikTok, someone was like, "All your filters you use red. What's going on with that?" I was like, "It was just a color that stuck with me from like high school." Right. So, like shoes wise, it's always random whenever I'm like doing stuff.
But at the same time, red means performance.
Right.
It either means performance, it means aggression, it means stop. That's why when people be like, "I want some red on my website," like you do not want red on your website.
They're not gonna be on your page long.
Like one, you gonna give somebody a damn stroke when
Yeah.
they look at your website.
Right.
Two, they gonna think they own something they ain't supposed to be on.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you're gonna use red for a website, use very, very little.
That's probably why that explains why y'all
red
branded.
Always means stop or warning. You know what I mean? Like I want some red letters on the wire because one, if they see it, they gonna think it's a warning. They liable not even to read the shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, those are all things that need to be discussed before you even begin to create a logo.
Right.
I love creating logos. I hate creating logos for other people. That makes
spade
sense.
to spade. No.
Because people love art, but they don't understand design.
No, right.
And I got some horror stories when it comes to logos. One of the biggest ones I can think of is I did business cards, website, and flyers for a couple of ladies who were notary publics. Their logo was a really thin, frilly, girly logo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty. It was very pretty.
But they were only going to limit their audience, right?
That's one. I mean, when I looked at the logo, I was like, how am I supposed to tell that this is something that has to do with like legal matters? And, you know, if anything, y'all look like y'all throw parties for a living, right?
Now I want to see the logo. We have to do that off air. We do it off air. I'm sorry.
And I told them this. I said, your logo doesn't reflect
Your business
doesn't reflect a professional, sophisticated, and competent company. Right? Well, that's what we want. So make it work. Okay.
Wet paint.
Did the business card. Right? Now, I had to blow the load. Now, a business card ain't but 3.5 by 2 piece of paper.
Yeah, well, not much.
Right? I put the logo on the business card. I had to make it big as hell so that you could see it. Now you're limiting the information that you can put on the business card, which is what the business card is for. The business card is for contact information.
Right.
You know? Well, we want the business card to say this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. I said, the piece of paper is only 3.5 by 2.
You know.
Well, how are they supposed to know what we do? Website.
Right.
You put the website on the business card, they go to the website and read up on all this shit. Well, we want all our services to be on the business card. I got like 20 different services.
What you want a 4-page? Ain't nobody. People don't retain that much information off business cards.
Right. You know what I say? I say, you know what people do with business cards? They look at it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a call.
Yeah, it's gone.
They forget they got it until they gotta call you.
Yeah.
You know. But they didn't. They figured they was paying me, so I got to do what they tell them to do. What they tell me to do. I said, okay. I mean, I done did my due diligence. I will put all the services on it. When they got them cards back, they was like, I can't see it. They were like, I told you that was gonna happen.
Yeah, it's 3 by 2.
Yeah, it's only so much real estate, but you want 10 paragraphs of shit on it. You know. And then they was like, I can't barely see the logo because the lines are so thin. Well, can't you do something to make it bolder? Nope. You have to talk to the person that designed it. I said, that's why you should have got a solid logo that's going to show up good on on the applications that you want to put it on, instead of trying to be pretty and girly. You know, who's gonna say, I need to get these legal documents notarized by somebody that know what they're doing? See your logo and be like, oh yeah, I think I can trust them.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody. They're gonna say, I don't know, they look like they might be ghetto or some shit. You know what I mean? So people don't understand the depth of,
because it's the first thing they see.
Right. You know, it's top awareness, what they call top of mind awareness. You know, you have a Mac computer.
Right.
When I see that Apple logo, I know exactly. I know it's Apple. I know what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
I know what they're gonna probably be doing in the future. You know what I mean? That logo, you can put that logo on anything.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna see it, and it's gonna stand out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp, and I'll still be able to see it.
Still be able to notice it because yeah.
Right. And see, a lot of people don't get that when it comes to logos. You know, all they will know is, oh, it's beautiful, it's pretty, it's a work of art. I love it. My friends love it. That's what the one I'm gonna use. Right. And I always ask them, I say, okay, if I shrink this down to the size of a phone application, are people gonna know what it is? And they be like, well, I won't really thinking about that. I mean, but you should be, because that's where it's all going. You know, I said, you got to understand the way people are going to do things. You know, in a little while, no one's going to be using business cards anymore. They're going to be using
QR code.
Popple.
Oh, Popple, yeah.
Popple and those other NCF, near field.
NFC,
yeah. Yeah, NFC stuff. To where all I got to do is tap your phone and you got all my information.
Right.
You know, so that little, you know, that unicorn with a butterfly riding on it ain't going to work as a logo. You know what I mean? Yeah. So logos, I think that logos are the greatest source of contention between artists or designer and customer. You You know, I mean, I think that's that's the biggest head-butting issue when it comes to that sort of thing.
No, good information. I'm here for it. Everything you said is 100% spot on because it's like experiences I've had endless times with people when you're trying to like get them to understand like this ain't gonna work. Like a couple months ago, no, I'm sorry, not a couple months. Last year, I started because I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do this Illustrator, and I watched, got a couple videos and they broke it down and basically saving it as a PNG, PDF, SVG. I'm like, all right, you got those three, you good, and then send the person the original Illustrator logo, you should be fine. Send one off to somebody, they got it, everything was good to go. But then they were getting it needing to be embroidered, and the person was like, oh, the font, I mean, not the font, they were saying like they needed a different file, and I was like, what other file format they need other than, I was like, they were trying to get money, but my lane, not my avenue. So
normally when somebody needs embroidery work, I normally supply them with a EPS.
EPS, okay.
Yeah. Now they also a lot of people that do like hats and stuff where they have what they call an ISO file.
Okay.
This
is for like a fight club, so probably would have been if it had been the EPS, and I easily, and then the thing that's interesting, Illustrator probably can pull that file out with no problem.
Yeah.
But it was just when the person who came to me for the design was we were legit and working with everything. The person who she was sending it to then was going to take it to whoever to get the embroidery part. If they had told me that was all that was needed, I would have easily been like, look, I'm not even going to charge. I'll just see the file. That would have saved them more money and saved time on working on their part of it. So
yeah. And I normally ask, when I was doing it. I would make that clear when I was doing it.
That's the reason I made the disclaimer at the beginning of like, with the transition of where you're going.
Yeah, I would normally ask, what are you going to be putting this on?
Mm-hmm.
And that'll give me a sense of what type of files you need, for it. Because I hate it when people come back to me 3 months later, like, hey, that logo I made for you? I mean, you made for me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't remember.
Right.
Well, can you, they said they needed us a ESP or EP. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. So I try to get all that straight in the beginning.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, so I got a question and a closing. So the question is easy. And this it's not asking it like on the obvious, like, oh, what's in the future, but I know we talked about it off air, but you do have some projects or some things that you're projecting to work on down the line. Just mainly, what is your immediate future, like what you're working on now, since you are transitioning out of that designing? Like I said, you're doing it freelance as needed, but you're doing other stuff. So like, what's your next hit that you're gonna be like? What's next for you in tech? I guess is the best way to say it.
I'm actually almost finished a course for my next Azure cert, which will be Azure Administrative Associate.
Okay.
From there, I'm probably going to do Azure data scientist,
right.
Data workloads. That's the name of it.
Okay.
Office 365 stuff, fundamentals, enterprise messaging, and enterprise teams. I'm going to tie all that together into AI, Azure AI.
Okay.
And that's probably where, once I tie all that together into one stream, I'm probably going to stay with the AI because that's the hot thing now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And just ride that. I'm gonna ride that wave, the AI wave, until I say, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah.
So that's probably, the next 5 or 6 years out.
Okay.
Sort of deal.
See, I had you say it. I didn't say it because I'm supposed to be like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I was like, I ain't about to throw that at you.
Well, I mean, I know the context of the question.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Honestly, if you'd have asked me, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I'd be like, making maybe about $150,000 a year.
Right.
Corvette.
Getting the money, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
A couple of hot chicks, you know.
hey, listen, whatever.
Rotation.
As I always say, whatever keep the lights on and keep the badge working. That's my concept. I think that's really been my biggest concept.
Yeah,
where
but
I'm
AI is where I'm headed.
Yeah, AI.
It's probably going to be another year before I really dip into AI.
Yeah,
you know, because like I said, it's so many prerequisites that I need to tackle before I really start to sink my teeth into it.
Mm-hmm.
AI has been some higher ups at where I work at now are starting to mention AI, and somebody's got to be there that's going to have to know how to do it.
Yeah, because it's the need for it is so big, and I think folks, it's just getting people to not be as afraid of it, and not putting, because a lot of folks put because I did a conversation the other day with some folks for a group I'm in with RBA Works, and a couple of folks are like, yeah, I don't see the benefit because unless you gotta have you gotta be on doing a trade, you gotta be locked into this, and I'm like, those are important too, but regardless of what does or doesn't happen with AI, with anything, with GPT, any of this stuff, tech will need people, not people. Like, people need tech, but tech needs people. It's literally a trade-off between the two, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you need the innovation, and the decision-making skills of humans,
right,
to implement all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a saying that goes, computers don't do what you want them to do. They do what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
So you're going to always need
somebody to tell it.
People that design systems to do what you tell them to do.
Right. Yeah.
AI, so case in point, AI, this guy had told AI to paint this picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
He submitted the picture to an art contest and won, right? So when it come to find out that he used AI to do the picture, everybody was like, well, hold on. How in the hell, how can, we spent hundreds of hours painting and all this stuff, and he won with an AI, right? With an AI generated painting. So he said, well, I'm the one that told the AI what to paint. I told it to do this and do that, and I wanted these colors and these people and blah 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 and this type of light and all this stuff. He started mentioning all these art terms and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depth of field and specular lighting and shading, and I wanted this and da, right?
Yeah.
And somebody said, yeah, but when you did all that, all it did was went out on the internet and found all those things and threw it together into a painting. Like, that didn't come from your life experience.
Thing. Yeah, your personal thing.
You didn't pick up a paintbrush,
right,
and use personal experience and personal feelings to create that painting.
Right.
And he couldn't say nothing. It was nothing he could say. He's like, Dad, you're not even an artist. You don't even know how to, you don't even know the name of the technique that AI used to paint this thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when it comes to AI, that's where a hard line needs to be drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big thing now is somebody used Biggie's voice to do a song on another song. I forget it was. I think it was California Love or something.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple artists that they've like
right. They'll use somebody else's voice to do the song.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's cool. I mean, honestly, it's not cool. Now that I say it.
Yeah.
On so many levels, it's not cool. But the feeling and the experience and the inspiration that it came to make that song, AI can't do that.
No.
AI can only take existing knowledge and mash it up into something. Like AI is not going to create a song from an experience. You know, it's not going to have a moment of inspiration and change the way we do business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's only going to take existing knowledge. Like ChatGTP can only go back to 2021 to pull information.
But you got to pay, and even the paid, I'm not pressed on that either.
And even that will have a disclaimer say some of this information might be wrong.
Right. That's a bigger factor than anything else.
But to bring it back around, AI as a business tool,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're going to have someone who knows business operation, who knows a business, and be able to implement that AI to enhance your business production or your procedures or anything like that.
That's valid. Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely a future with it, and I'm keeping a close eye on it because I mean it's there and it's in existence. Because like I said, the one guy was like, yeah, you know, this took everybody's job. I'm like, I'm not seeing AI taking code. Like I don't see it right now, only because coding doesn't. You can give it all the information and learning it, but it's going to also still need to know the logic of the code for the company or the specific part.
Now, guy I work with, he got on ChatGTP and said, I need a PowerShell script that will do this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wrote the whole script out.
Right.
And it worked. And somebody said, yeah, AI is too powerful. I say, yeah, but is AI sitting around going, I wonder if I write a PowerShell script?
Yeah.
It's not going to do that.
It's not self-searching. Someone has to use it to do the searching.
You still need human input for AI to do what it does.
Right.
You know, I don't think the days of the Terminator is coming. You know what I mean? I don't think those days are coming. Yeah. I do think that systems will become smart enough to where if you turn it off, it'll turn itself back on. But once it run out of juice,
it's off. Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody got to design the system to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have systems. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but when you unplug a TV or when you unplug a computer, it still has power to it.
Yeah.
That's how it keeps track of, you know, your channels that you've been on and stuff like that. Once they call CMOS battery. Mm-hmm. Once that CMOS battery is dead, then you lose everything. But it's gonna take a long time for that bitch to go out.
Yeah, pull up from the windows with a lot of times if you did troubleshooting, a lot of times they'll say, yeah, just pull the CMOS battery, restart. And I was like, oh, you nuts.
Wow. You get ready to lose everything. You get ready to factory reset this thing.
Yeah. So my wrap up, since it is called a pass, I always like to do this as a fun tip, helpful resource. We're giving a lot of information. Go back and listen and re-listen because I'm gonna listen to it a couple times. But the pass is about passing a message, sharing a good message with everybody, like something that they'll remember, something they can walk away with. It can be related to tech, can be related to life, just a general know-how and kind of like a good closing point because we've been rocking almost an hour and a half. I didn't realize it. Yeah. So
we in here.
Yeah. So, and I want to make sure because I know.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. Before I blink, because I'm like, watch somebody can walk and it's 2:00. I'm like, hold on, let me reserve this room again for another 30 minutes. But just a quick message that you want to share with the listeners on anything. It can be whatever you want to share as like a message to walk away with.
Figure out. I don't know the age of your listeners. I'm assuming they're our age.
Yeah, around our age, just about.
It's never too late to do what you want to do in life.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Now this is coming from a guy who not married and don't have any kids. So my responsibilities are not as great as the next man who does have those things.
Right.
But if you have a good support system in place or your children are grown, you know, most people my age, their kids are grown.
Yeah.
Step out there. You know, I mean, you know, the guy that's been working at the bank for 15 years, I mean, I'm pretty sure you didn't really want to work at the bank. You just took the job because you needed a job. You know, take some time to do things that on a professional level.
Yeah.
You know, take some time to do the things that you might wanted to do when you was 18. You know, go ahead on and take that class at the community college. You know, go ahead on and sign up for Coursera and learn this. You know, learn accounting if that's what you wanted to do. Learn coding if that's what you wanted to do. Learn how to paint portraits if that's what you wanted to do. You know, take the time to realize that, yo, I've always wanted to do this. Let me try it. Especially with the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can go on YouTube now and take a whole boot camp, a whole 14-hour boot camp in damn near anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's never, it's not too late. I ain't gonna say never, because, you know, never say never. But it's not too late to delve into this or that. You know, want to learn how to cook. Like me, I'm getting ready to teach myself how to play guitar. You know, I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. You know,
That's gonna be a vibe.
you know what I'm saying? My cousin, he plays bass. He's like, man, when you gonna get a guitar? So, you know, I'm gonna start taking guitar lessons off of YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna buy myself a cheap guitar from Guitar Center or whatever that is out there.
Either that or Sam Ash. Yeah, because I think Sam Ash sells instruments. I think sell guitar.
Yeah. I also draw comics. You know, I might start drawing comics and put a comic book out there.
Yeah.
The only thing that's kind of with that though is comic books is very labor intensive. People don't understand how much it goes into drawing a comic.
It's a whole grind.
I mean,
especially with trying to make sure they line up and yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot to draw a comic. But you know, be true to yourself. You know, take care of yourself, mentally and physically. You know, because we getting. I mean, I'll be 49 in 2 weeks, and a lot of guys I grew up with ain't here.
Right.
You know, and I've always been the fat guy. You know what I'm saying? These was guys that were skinny and could play ball and run on and jump all day long, and that he did. But like, what happened? Heart attack. Damn.
Yeah.
You know, so take care of yourself. Don't be afraid to get certain things checked out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When listen to your doctor, listen to your body. You know, eat right, get enough rest. You know, get enough sleep. Don't let the world stress you out. You know, and do some things for yourself. You know, you do some things for yourself. Read a book.
Yeah.
Don't be in front of TV screen 16, 17 hours a day. You know,
I'm always advocating about screen time, and I'm ironically reading the book Digital Minimalism, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the monitor or the digital screen, as you said, it is the chief way to deliver information now. But you know, go to the park sometime.
Yeah.
And just watch people. You know, look at traffic. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is I like to go to Mellow Mushroom out Short Pump and sit out there and just watch traffic go down and just zone out and get air and see the lights and see some real stuff. And don't, this is the number one thing, don't push away good people. You know, the good people that's in your life, don't push them away. You know, because, you know, you need that social interaction, good social interaction that's not gonna go in that's not gonna take you to a dark place.
Right.
You know, so that's it. I mean, that's pretty much it. You know,
This is solid. This is solid. That last one, ooh, because there's some. I've had some people recently that we both had to kind of see, like, look, you can't push folks away that because you like folks can be there at your best point at your most unique state. My message I'm gonna pass along today is quick and brief. Journal. Start journaling. If you haven't already, keep a journal. I don't care if it's digital. I don't care if it's handwritten, but make journaling a thing. Like, I'm really learning how important it is on a personal level, how much I miss journaling. So just go out, spend less than $10, go to a store, buy like a nice notebook. If you want to really get fancy and bougie, go to Barnes & Noble, get a nice book. just start journaling. Get a good pen. And anyone that knows me knows I'm the pen plug. So if you need good pen options, I'm your go-to person. But yeah, just start journaling. Any plugs or any social you want to share before we wrap up, or just going to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just just moving along the track that I'm starting to create for myself. No real plugs or anything or anybody I want to shout out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know plenty of people that's out there doing what they do.
Yeah.
But nothing jumps out at me like, yo, you gotta
Check
holler
out
at these people.
yeah.
Because so many people want so many different things. It's hard for me to pinpoint.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot.
Okay.
All
right. Well, we're gonna wrap up and close. And like I said, I'm shocked because it's 2. And I was like, maybe somebody could be staying in the door, like, hey, it's our time. But it looked like it's not the case. But yeah, I appreciate you being on the show.
Oh man, this was fun. I mean, we got to do it again.
Oh yeah. Folks come back as repeat offenders. When they come back the second time, like I told you, the first time you get to do your personal introduction. After that, you furnish it. So you just come in and we chop it up. So.
Yeah, it's really hard these days to have a really good, great conversation.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Some people, a lot of people want to talk about stuff that I just don't find interesting.
Right.
So
that's what makes this show valuable is that I'm talking about those things that I've found interesting, but I know other people will find interesting because it's not me saying it. Yeah. And that's why I like having guests like you, like I mentioned earlier, having the Shawn on, a boy on. A lot of people I get on, I bring them on because it's not gonna be the traditional rah rage mode conversation. Yeah. It's just like, look, we're gonna chop it up about life, talk about reality, and keep it moving. So that is all I got. I don't know why I look like I want to have a moment outside, but we're going to wrap it on up. But I appreciate you again for being on. And until next time, I think next week, I have my friend Desi coming on. Okay. She is doing she's a part of Grand Nubit, so I'm looking forward to her coming on and sharing her stuff. So I think this summer, it looks like I'm all in on just having guests on. So we're going to go ahead and close out. And until next time, this is The Pass signing out. Y'all take it easy. Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to thepastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samsung Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing and your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right. See y'all on the next show.